What's going on, everyone? Welcome on in to another episode of Golf on Tap. Today, we'll be getting into our final bets for the 2024 Waste Management Phoenix Open, the People's Open, as it has been donned. I'm excited. It's the first time in 3 years that I've actually been able to bet on this tournament, as I've been in Mexico each of the last 2 years during the Super Bowl and during this event. So, very excited to get into it. Would be a real good time to hit the first outright of the season. As always, I'm Jack Bushman, joined by my partner in crime, Joey Ricotta. Follow him on X at Joey Knows Nothing. You can give me a follow on X as well at Jack Bushman2. And also make sure to go and give some love to the Golf on Tap X page, which is actually On Tap Golf. Go and follow that there. And brand new as well is we are now on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. So it would help us out tremendously if you're able to go and subscribe to that on either of those platforms, wherever you may be listening to your podcast. We greatly appreciate it. And also go and jump into the YouTube feed so you can comment your picks as to whether or not you're tailing guys who were going to be on this week, and whether or not you're liking our picks, fading our picks, whatever. We want to be interacting with all of you listeners out there. So make sure to go and hop into the YouTube feed. We greatly appreciate that. Joey, baby, getting into it, brother. 2024 Waste Management Phoenix Open, an excellent event, a perfect lead up, I would say, to the Super Bowl. It always makes for a great entire afternoon of Sunday, gives something for everyone to watch leading into the Super Bowl. But before we get into that, brother, you had a heck of a week last week, not only hitting Wyndham Clark at some pretty big odds, but just altogether, your card was really solid. You had like four guys in the top 15 right there in the contention. Going into what would have been the final round. Obviously, that tournament ends up getting cut short to 54 holes due to the course conditions just not being manageable or good enough to go on either Sunday or Monday due to the substantial rain, which was a little bit unfortunate that, Pebble Beach got cut short, but I don't think you're going to have any complaints when Wyndham Clark at some pretty big odds winds up hitting for you, brother. How's that feel, and how you doing this afternoon, or this evening, I guess I should say?
It's all blending into one here, Jack. So it's all right. I'm feeling good. I am feeling good. The Windy City Flyer again. This is the one time I feel like we're not cut short by being cut short, at least in my case. I feel good, man. Like, this is waking up to that news or seeing that news there on Monday. It was pretty awesome to be able to get that, because I thought for sure we're gonna have golf here on Monday, and like I'm feeling still pretty good because Wyndham obviously Sunday got cut down, but then I thought they're going to pick it up back there on Monday, and feeling good about Wyndham because Saturday he absolutely went bonkers, and it was like he could putt with his kneecap or something. Like, anything he was doing, it was going to go in the hole, and he was just draining everything. So, but yeah, him. Ludwig Aberg was up there, Luddy F. Baby, Jason Day, Bo Hostler for the one and done pick. Very, very strong week from me, and it just feels good to kind of get back off the schneid there, because it's kind of been a minute, it feels like, since we had something to celebrate. And Wyndham, man, it feels like when he gets an outright for me, it's always that 80-1 and plus number, because, the U.S. Open – 80-1 again, and some people got him at 100-1 this last week, I think I saw, and some people got him 100-1 at the U.S. Open. I wasn't that guy because I bet a little bit later in the week. I like to, our strategy, take everything in and then make decisions from there. But still, 80-1, man. Like, I'm becoming a huge Wyndham Clark fan by the day and by the second. So yeah, man, I'm doing good. How about you? You just got back, obviously, from Mexico. So how was all that? I know you guys had a show yesterday. You probably were talking about it a little bit, but I kind of tuned in a little bit late. So how's everything going with you? And are you ready for everything that's going to go on this weekend?
Yeah, vacation was lovely, brother. I appreciate you asking. Good to get away from this brisk Chicago weather, even though things have been much better here recently than it was like right before I left, when the temperature was like a high of -6 for a few days there. It was pretty brutal. So nice to go and get into the sun, relax a little bit, kind of just take a week off to de-stress from everything, which is always nice. Although I will say I'm a little jealous that wasn't able to have a show with you last week for a signature event at Pebble Beach. It felt like if I was in the Chicagoland area, we certainly would have done a show together, and maybe I would have been tailing you on Wyndham Clark, which Unfortunate that I wasn't able to, because things have not been very good for your boy really since Victor Hovland went on a tear at the end of last season and went back-to-back at the BMW and the Tour Championship, when I had a good amount of money on him at both of those events. It's been tough sledding for me, so could have used the Wyndham Clark win last week, but we're on to the Waste Management this week, man. It would be, like I said, really awesome to have some extra dinero in the account leading into the Super Bowl. But 80 to 1, 100 to 1 doesn't make any difference for you with Wyndham, man. Those are some great odds, and kind of crazy that all three of his wins, I believe, have come at those odds. Two of them in signature events, one being a major. Like, doesn't really matter if his current form is excellent or not. I guess last year he was a little bit more of an unknown. That's why his odds were a little bit deeper. This time around, he just hadn't been very good since that US Open win. But yeah, to hit him twice at those odds, man, he's got to be becoming one of your fan favorites for sure. And yeah, you talked about just how he was incredible on that Saturday round, shooting a course record 60, and it really could have been better, dude. I don't know if you were watching his last couple of holes. He missed putts on 16, 17, and 18 by probably a combined like 2.5 feet, if that. Like, he really could have shot 58. It was crazy. But in shooting that course record, I think, as unfortunate as it was that there wasn't a final day of competition there, I think he is a worthy recipient of that trophy and of that title. So congratulations to you and Wyndham Clark for hitting that outright, brother. Hopefully you can kind of keep that momentum going into the Waste Management this week, is even though it's not a signature event, it really does feel like one of the big boys, man. No doubt about it, right?
Oh, this is the best atmosphere in golf, in my opinion. It's not the traditional atmosphere. Like, it's not like, the Masters that high up of an atmosphere, but like, just from the mayhem that we're going to see on TV this weekend, this is my favorite tournament from that perspective. And then, it's Super Bowl Sunday. And I guess, like, before we get into the whole tournament and how crazy it's going to be, does it bother you at all? Or, like, what are your thoughts on that it is Super Bowl Sunday? Like, do you feel like, because of how crazy it is always, in Scottsdale for this tournament, and how high up it feels as far as importance, even though it's, not one of those major events, or really, it's not even elevated this year, right? Last year it was elevated. But like, does that bother you at all that there's the Super Bowl? Like, it doesn't get its own kind of appeal, because last weekend, obviously there was the Pro Bowl, which nobody really even gives a shit about, and there wasn't even golf on Sunday. But like, does that matter that it gets done like right before the Super Bowl to you, or does that take anything away at all?
I actually really like it. I think it's turned out very good for the PGA Tour, and it's funny because I do have friends that feel like, and I was actually just having a conversation with a couple of buddies in a group text about that this morning. One of my buddies was like, "This is really stupid that it's the same day as the Super Bowl. Like, all I want on Sunday is to think about the Super Bowl and what I want to bet." And I personally think it's a great little lead up. Gives more people just something to watch, something to kind of invest their time in leading into the Super Bowl. I think it gets the juices flowing a little bit for me personally. So I don't have any problem with it, but I see where people are coming from in a sense. But I feel like it's just kind of one of those polarizing things. You either love it or you don't like it at all. There's kind of no in between, it feels like.
Yeah, and I get that too. I think, like, I was just seeing a lot of those takes this week, and so that's what kind of really sparked that question there for you. But I'm in the same boat with you. Give me all the sports all the time, especially like two big events like this in the same day. Like, I know what I'm doing on Sunday, and that's absolutely nothing. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm in front of my TV, might have some taco dip. Hopefully Kayla will make that. Haven't talked to her about that yet, but we're gonna see if she can do that. Yeah, fingers crossed on that one. But no, man, it's just, it adds to the day for me, I think, too. Like, anytime you can have, I mean, this is a 4-day sweat for us, for us bettors that bet on Golf Weekly, and for something like this, if you're a diehard NFL fan and that's all you care about, I understand it, because it kind of like overrides the golf, like the talk that might overshadow a little bit, but it's the Super Bowl, man. Like, it doesn't get any bigger than that as it is. So it's like, all right, like, give us something during the day, especially while we're hanging out with our friends or having our Super Bowl party starting early. Like, let's win it outright, Jack. Let's get you back in the hot seat, the saddle here. And I think we're going to do that this week because it sounds like, you're pretty dialed in getting back from vacation here. So you had a nice little rest and relaxation. I think you're ready to go here.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. Clear the brain, get everything going. Man, it would be really nice to have an outright this week. A little extra coin in the account before Super Bowl kicks off. And like you said, just making dude, now my Super Bowl Sunday is really gonna begin at like 9 or 10 a.m. And you bet I'm gonna start my day with some real good breakfast, some food that's probably not very good for me, maybe a few alcoholic beverages, get everything flowing early. So I'm stoked for it, excited for this tournament and for what this weekend is going to present. And this tournament has also provided some really good finishes over the years. I want to say Scotty Scheffler winning last year by 2 strokes over Nick Taylor was the first time in like 6 or 7 years that it hadn't either been a 1-stroke victory for someone or gone to a playoff. So it's usually a really good finish at this event as well. And that's probably because the back 9 on this course has a lot of risk reward holes. There's a lot of water in play. You can go and shoot low, and you can also go and make some big numbers. So it provides a potential for multi-shot swings. And I think that just kind of adds to what makes this event special and kind of fuels the atmosphere even more than it already is crazy out there. So I think it's a good one, man. I'm really excited for it. And it would be even more spectacular to come out of this tournament with the winner. First one this season would be a heck of a time right here, right now.
Hell yeah, man. I think you make some good points there too about the back 9. Like it does seem that there's, those certain holes that you just want bogey avoidance on. And then there's certain holes that like, okay, definitely makeable birdies and take advantage of those. And it's kind of that nice little balance there that you get down the back 9 stretch that really makes it interesting going back down the back 9. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And then the hole 16, of course, the 16th hole.
Of course. I don't know how we haven't talked about it yet. I don't know how we haven't brought it up
that should have been, we buried the lead, but we had so much to get into already. So the 16th hole, man, it's absolutely chaotic and wild every year. And it's like whenever anybody does something, I actually look forward to the people that are the golfers that will just miss makeable birdies or just miss makeable pars, and just the amount of the crowd that just lays into the golfers, which I'm not saying is right or wrong. I mean, it's, probably not right to do that, to act like an absolute buffoon, but like it just, to me, there's nothing better than, you only get it once a year, and like this is the one time when it's allowed that you can just kind of like boo a golfer and get away with it and it not be disrespectful. So I really look forward to that, especially hole 16 there.
It's a tournament like any other, and I said this yesterday on the show with Ross. It's a tournament that I'm sure the PGA Tour doesn't want every week to turn into, but they're very accepting of letting this be kind of what it was designed to be this weekend. With the booze flowing the way that it's going to be throughout the tournament, there are going to be some people saying some things, and you kind of just need to take it for what it is, take it on the chin for this 1 week. You're probably going to get heckled a little bit more than you would most weeks, and that's just because of the sheer number of people that are going to attend. I mean, expected to be upwards of 700,000 throughout the weekend in Scottsdale. So, yeah, it's going to be a little bit rowdy, but I think it's for the better. This is a week that the PGA Tour kind of letting loose and letting, everyone be free. I mean, thinking back to Joel Damon taking off his shirt and whipping it in circles on the 16th green. I know it's like the olds are probably like, that's a bad look for golf. But listen, it happens 1 week a year. It's not like we're asking for this to turn into every week. And it's good for the game that this week happens. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's that one-off special event. And I think we're all here for it. At least you and we're definitely here for it. But Jack, main takeaways. You guys had a show yesterday, and encourage everybody to go back and listen to that or watch that on YouTube. As Jack said, now it's in a podcast platform as well. So go ahead and go back and watch that when you're done with this, or listen to that. But what are some of your like main takeaways, or like, course stats, things that you were watching for this week at TPC Scottsdale, to just from a betting perspective, what you can kind of gauge and what you're really looking to take advantage of here?
Yeah, this course is kind of interesting. It feels like it's a little peculiar because by design, it's only 7,261 yards, which in the sense of what we normally see on the PGA Tour, it's probably right around average. It's not a very long course, but what's interesting is kind of looking at the winners and the guys who have taken down this event in the past. It feels like it's a lot of guys who have done well at US Opens or have just done well on those, kind of just won the big boy events, right? Looking at the past winners, we got Scotty Scheffler the last 2 years. Hideki Matsuyama has won here twice. The Players Championship is another crossover that I think is really interesting. Like Hideki hasn't won there, but has played well there before. Scotty Scheffler obviously has won there. Ricky Fowler has won at both spots. Webb Simpson is someone who's also won the U.S. Open and won here. Brooks Koepka, a really good U.S. Open major type of player. So even though this course really isn't set up like a major championship type of test, it just seems to kind of bring the best or make the cream rise to the top a little bit more. And one reason I think for that is because it's a course that really demands you to be good with the driver. It's a very driver-friendly course. And guys hit driver a lot here because the rough really isn't all that penalizing. And also, you just really need to be good from tee to green is what seemingly is most important, because we have just seen some guys who aren't historically known for being good putters win this event. I mean, Scotty Scheffler is a prime example of that. And for these greens, they're a little bit unique in their own right because they tend to run a little bit firmer and faster, and they're a combination of Bermuda grass and POA trivials. So they're kind of their own unique type of thing. They usually run on the firmer and faster side, and I don't know if that helps better putters or worse putters, kind of find the midline a little bit more, be average putters on these greens, or I'm not exactly sure what it is, but that's kind of been the case historically here. But what's going to be interesting, Joey, is TPC Scottsdale and the Scottsdale area just got pelted with a ton of rain here this week. So I don't know if those greens are exactly going to be as firm and fast as they usually are, especially on Thursday and Friday. And that's one thing we talked about prior to recording is like, I don't really know what to make of putting because it feels like even without the rain, this is kind of a weird spot to dictate putting and how much to like emphasize into it. And it feels like it's going to be even more tricky to dictate this week considering the rain. So I've really just kind of been leaning on guys who are in good form from tee to green, guys who have been performing well on approach and are able to weaponize their drivers when they do use it. And I think with it being a little bit softer those first couple of days, being able to have total driving being long and accurate in the fairways is going to be even more rewarding because you might see lift clean in place and you might not get as much rollout. So I've been looking at tee to green approach driving is really what I've been looking at. What is interesting is there's 11 par fours on this course, with it being a par 71, only 3 par fives. A majority of those par fours are over 440 yards. So a proximity from 175 yards to 200 is something that I've been kind of targeting. And I've also been looking at par fives between 500 to 550 yards because all 3 par fives kind of strike right into that range. But it's one of those courses where if you're going well tee to green, you can go and shoot some low scores. But if you're in trouble, you can make some big numbers here. Like I mentioned, there's risk reward shots. There's 5 or 6 holes where water is in play. There's a lot of sand bunkers and just classic classical desert elements where if you get wayward off the tee, like you're going to find yourself in a cactus or in situations like that. So I do think driving is really important. And I think that's why we kind of have seen some guys who usually win US Opens or the Players Championship do really well here, because those are both courses that really emphasize driving the golf ball really well. So those are kind of the things that I was breaking down when going through my model and kind of dictating who I wanted to build on my card this week, Joey. I just lost you, by the way, brother. I can't hear you right now. I don't know if your mic came unplugged on accident. Yeah, I just lost you for a second there. Classic.
That was a whoopsie. That was a Joey thing.
Classic Joey.
Yeah, definitely hitting the mute there because I was moving my chair and I didn't want it to, ring a ding ding over here. But no, man, I think like you said beforehand, what I was saying was putting. It's interesting because you make good points about not knowing what to do with it this week. I did try to take what the guys are doing kind of recently as far as like, how they're trending coming into this. Because even like Scotty Scheffler, who traditionally isn't the greatest putter, he can be very up and down that way. He does putt pretty well here. So that's what makes it so crazy is like, well, does putting still matter or does it not? Because like obviously the weeks that you win, you still have to make putts. But it's kind of interesting that way. I did focus more so on the driving, mostly distance, but also total driving too. But I think, you definitely don't want to miss in the desert. There's water that you do have to be aware of. I feel like if you can just miss in the rough areas, though, you can get away with it. So maybe playing it a little bit safe on that side of things, depending on where, which hole you're on, I think makes sense to kind of miss into the rough certain areas. But yeah, man, my approach to this week was, focusing mostly on off the tee, a little on approach, obviously, and proximity, and then some. So, like I said, some putting, more so like recent, and like maybe on how they do on Bermuda grass greens. So I know it's Bermuda and kind of like a POA mixture, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at, and more so in the course history, obviously, for this type of course, this is one of the best, or like most. If you have good course history here, you tend to do well year in and year out. Or the same goes for if you're terrible here, you'll probably be terrible here again. But if it's like a small sample, I still don't know what to make of that. So some guys, and there's one that I am betting on this week that I think he's only been here once. So we'll get into that. But yeah, Jack, what do you say, man? You want to just go ahead and get into it and talk about some of these bets here this week?
Absolutely. Let's get right into it.
All right, so let me pull up the odds board here because our nice little helper odds checker, usually shout out to them. I'm switching it up. We're using Action Network today because I feel like I can normally find the better odds over there. They got more of them listed lately, so no offense, odds checker. We're tuning you out this week. Scotty Scheffler, he is almost 5-1. He looks like 4.75 to 1 plus 475. Xander Schauffele 9-1, Justin Thomas 10-1, Spieth 14-1, and Burns is 16-1, Homa 16-1. So that's basically your top six there, and you could probably find better odds. I know Xander's out there; he's got a better number.
Xander withdrew, brother. I don't know how Action Network still has Xander listed. He withdrew on Monday, but he's not playing this week.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So I wasn't betting him.
You can't trust Action Network, apparently.
We can't trust Action. All right, let's go back to odds checker then. Damn it, Action Network. Sorry for you guys. I wasn't betting him anyways because I wasn't really looking at him, so I wasn't paying attention to who I'm reading off here. So anyways, Jack, top of the board, minus Xander Schauffele. Scotty is a crazy number. It's one back-to-back. A lot of reasons to like him again here this week. Seems like everyone and their mom is betting JT this week, like we've kind of talked about pre-show. Where are you at, man? What are you doing at the top of the board, if anything?
Dude, I don't know how to feel about it this week, but I'm not betting any of these guys. And it does feel like a big dog is going to win. I feel like, I've been saying that for a couple weeks now, so who knows if it actually happens, but I didn't really like any of these numbers. Scotty, it's impossible to not like Scotty here, and he actually seems to putt well on this course. He was second in strokes gained putting last week. If he does that again this week, he is going to win. Let me be clear. I just can't get to it at plus 450, even with plus 300 boost out there or 25% profit boost, like getting it to 700. I still couldn't pull trigger on that, as much as it probably is likely that Scotty is going to win and he should be the clear cut favorite for a reason. I couldn't get myself to that. And I couldn't get myself to the Justin Thomas 11-1 numbers either. There were 14-1s out there prior to Hovland and Xander withdrawing, but even then, man, I know Justin Thomas, it feels really like he's back and he has great results to kick off the new year and has been great here in his entire career. Something never felt right to me about that number. And I know there are people out there who found him at as big as 30 and 35-1 a few months ago because DraftKings had actually listed really early. It was like even in October you could bet on this event, I believe. It was the only non-major that they had like pre-tournament odds listed for quite a while. So I know some people took advantage of that. And I think knowing that they're worth 30 to 35 to 1 odds out there on JT turned me off of this like 11 to 14 to 1 number even more. I will say out of the top end guys, he certainly is the most intriguing to me. One question with JT, kind of like Scotty, it feels like, is always the putter. And, seeing someone who has putting woes like Scotty win here twice and JT's past results, you got to feel good about his chances this week, right? And I certainly do. I feel a huge sense of FOMO, and I am scared out of anyone at the top here of winning. JT, I feel that way the most, but I still couldn't get myself to it. I did kind of like Jordan Spieth a little bit, but again, I just wound up passing on this entire top of the board. I don't really know how to feel about it, but I'm going your typical route this week with bypassing these first 5 names. Curious to see if you're kind of feeling the same.
All right, I like it. I love that strategy, but I don't know, man.
I don't think you're doing it this week.
I'm not doing it this week. So I'm not against it, obviously. I love doing it. I think it's not a bad strategy, especially when you can't, like, Justin Thomas has just started to come back into form here recently. I mean, it's kind of been a little bit of, he's on kind of a stretch now of being in pretty good form, but T6 at Pebble Beach, T3 earlier this year at the Amex. It's a small sample, but he's 6th in proximity this year. And like I was saying earlier, I think proximity could be really important here because I don't think you want to get into like the super long putter range, but again, we don't really know how big of a factor that will be this week. But the course history, I just think he's one of the most relevant. This is one of the most relevant courses on tour, and he's definitely destroys this place. Top 10 in 4 of his last 5 trips, no worse than T13 in all 5. So yeah, I think JT at 11 to 1. It does suck missing out on that like 35 range or whatever you said, 35 to 1 that you could have got him at months back. But I'm kind of a week to week better mostly when it comes to golf. So outside of Colin Morikawa right now, I got a future on him for a certain tournament that we'll talk about another time. But JT, I think 11 to 1. That'll be the lowest I go this week, and then I'm kind of skipping possibly the next range there, but I can't pass up JT this week, which scares me because everyone's betting him.
Yeah, it's going to go one of 2 ways. Either I'm going to be really fucking sad on Sunday afternoon when I check the account and I have $0 in it while everyone else has. Even if it is 11 to 1, like I was telling my buddies this today too, some money is always better than no money, but I still just couldn't get myself to that 11 to 1 number. So I'm either going to be really happy or really sad Sunday afternoon. It's going to be one of those 2 ways. But I do got a lot of, because of fading this top part of the board, I do got a lot of plays in the next couple 2 ranges. So,
well, you know what? If you're mad that you faded JT, we'll talk about how you can get all your money back towards the end of the show because we've got something cooking for the Super Bowl. So, with that said, moving down the board a little bit, I think I might have mentioned Sam Burns, but you can find him 22 to 1. After that, Beniana, 28 to 1. Wyndham Clark, 28 to 1. Sanjay Im, 30 to 1. JT the Postman Poston, 35 to 1. Matthew Fitzpatrick, Minwoo Lee. All those names there, 35 to 1 between those 3, Poston, Fitz, and Minwoo Lee. I think this is a solid range. A lot of guys that are playing some very good golf here. Looks like Ross here in the comments here, your co-host, Minwoo Lee. He likes Minwoo Lee, and then some other names here too we haven't talked about yet. Cam Young and Sahith Theegala. So those look like his picks. Good picks. I mean, I think we're going to get into reasons why here in a second. But Jack, are you following him there, or are you in the same camp with Minwoo Lee out of the names mentioned here?
I am not on Minwoo this week, but I will say it is admittedly, it feels like it could be a good Minwoo course, as I mentioned 2 possible comparisons are U.S. Open venues and the Players Championship. Minwoo finished inside the top 10 at both of those. My one concern with Minwoo is like his driver is great, but his approaches have not been good so far this season. And because of that, he really hasn't had a high-end finish. I do think this is a good spot for him, but I'm not going to be pulling trigger on him at those odds. The one guy I did get to from this range, I actually only got to one here, but I got him at a much bigger number. Shout out to PointsBet for having a little bit of a power hour here today. Benny Anna, baby. Benny fucking Anna, 42-1. I think this is a really good course for Ben on, Joey. And he's shown that with his past results. He hasn't played here since 2021, but he's got 4 top 25s, 2 of them being top 10s. And he actually had a chance way back in 2017 to pick up his first PGA Tour win, which he is still hunting down as we speak. He was the outright leader through 54 holes, but ended up shooting 2 over 73 on Sunday to finish 6th. But he's proven that he's a guy who loves playing desert golf, not only here, but has some really solid results at the Dubai Desert Classic, which is another classical desert venue that the DP World Tour hosts, usually the week right before this. And in 4 starts there, he's finished inside the top 13 every time. And it just feels like he's been knocking on the door for so long, man. Really since like last July when he kind of figured things out with the putter, and had another opportunity in Hawaii, lost out in the playoff, unfortunately, to Grayson Murray, which was super wild because he had like the 7-foot putt that looked like was going to seal the deal, but ended up finishing runner-up there. Was 4th at the Century the week prior. And you want to talk about guys that can weaponize their driver. That's what Benny On is really known for. Hits it a long way, hits it really straight. The irons have been a little bit hit or miss, but when they're on, they are on, and he is typically really good from that 175 to 200 yard bucket, takes advantage of the par 5s, and with that broomstick, he's been really solid for the last several months. So given his track record on desert style golf courses like this and at this event, given his current form too, 42-1, there was no way I was going to pass up Benny On at that number. So he's the one that I did bet from this range. The other guys that I was considering, JT Poston, man, I've really been on him since the fall. I haven't been betting him the last couple of weeks, but kind of similar to the other JT, like every time I fade JT Poston, I get really scared that it's going to be the week that he's going to win. And he has just been so good with his approaches and so good with the putter recently. He scares me a little bit. I didn't end up betting him, but he's the other one that I'd probably go to in this range. But Benny On is the only one that I officially bet. What about you?
Well, it's crazy to me that Benny On, just you bringing that up, it still blows my mind that he hasn't won at least one tournament at this point.
I know.
Just the flashes that he's had, it's like, wow, really? This guy hasn't won yet? But no, Poston is a guy that I feel like I've been betting quite a bit recently, or just – and not every other tournament, but it does feel like lately I've been betting him. And so that does scare me not betting him this week. But why do I get the feeling that whenever you do bet him, you can't hit him right for whatever reason? When you don't and you want to, he's good. And when you do bet him, he's not good. Why do I get that feeling?
I think I've only bet him twice. And I'm really not like that big of a Benny On better. Are you talking about
Poston?
Oh.
My bad. I moved on really quickly there. Yeah.
No, you're totally good. I've had a couple close Poston weeks. My closest one was definitely at the Shriners, and I feel like when I was there, and I feel like he definitely should have won that one because he made an 8 on that.
Well, that's the scar I think I'm remembering in my head. Yeah, so he wasn't bad. I bet
Poston a ton during the fall, and I think I bet him at the Century to kick off the year, and I don't think I've bet him since. And it's been a little scary because the irons have stayed hot.
Mm-hmm.
The putter is good. He's got a good short game. I do worry a little bit about the driver here, though. It's been better recently, but like this is not the spot for him to be bad with the driver. That's my one concern about Poston. And I don't have those worries about Benny On. Knock on freaking wood.
Yeah, no, Benny On right now over the last 24 rounds, he's 4th in strokes gained off the tee. So you don't have to worry about him off the tee. At least you don't think so. I mean, so I do get what you're saying there with Benny On. It's interesting. This range definitely has some names where, like Wyndham Clark, man, I almost want to just ride the heater. He was T10 last year here. Coming off the win this past weekend, like if you're going to give us odds that are, somebody who has a decent history, it's not like he has like tremendous course history here, but just the fact that he's coming off a T10, it's a place he's pretty familiar with anyways. He is riding this hot stretch. I'm going to say back-to-back weeks is ideal. Usually I don't like betting golfers the week after the next, but we've seen it happen. I mean, we saw it happen last year, right? Who was back to back last year?
The
Lucas
glove,
Glover, the glove,
the
baby. Yeah.
glove.
So, I mean, like, it's not like it's impossible. And this is a pretty amped up event where if you are feeling good about yourself coming in and you have the game for it, I don't think it's terrible. I'm really debating Wyndham Clark here. I haven't done it yet, but what are your thoughts about the Windy City Flyer?
I was actually just looking up some of his numbers, and man, it really feels like if I would have been able to bet last week, I could have potentially bet Wyndham because his off the tee had been great. His ball striking really had been good. He had just been really bad with the putter to kick off the new year, and that's like usually not the case. Like Wyndham is known as a pretty good putter, good short game guy, and when he was running hot last year, he was really good with the putter. So, yeah, I don't hate it. I don't like love the odds
Yeah, it's
particularly.
not
I
ideal
get it.
there.
I get it. Like when he wins big boy events. So like it's certainly in the realm of possibility.
I would much prefer 80 to 1 though, because that seems to be my number for him.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Just wait till he like plays like dog shit the next 3 weeks, and then you can hop back on for something big.
Yeah. We'll give him a little bit of a breather this week. So Ross had mentioned Cam Young. He's here 40 to 1. We have Hideki Matsuyama 40 to 1. Tom Kim 40 to 1, Sahith Theegala 40 to 1, and then Eric Cole 45 to 1. So pretty good group of names here. Tom Kim didn't do terrific here last year, I want to say. Hideki's been so damn like, oh man. I don't know, but like this is his spot, right? Like he's out of the guys out of strokes gained. I was looking at this. I believe it's like Scotty, Justin Thomas, and him as far as like the top three names in average adjusted strokes gained. So it's like Hideki is the guy I think I'm really tempted to bet in this range. Jack, what are you thinking?
This is the range that I hit really hard. Out of the names that you just listed, I got 3 of them. Got Tom Kim at 44 to 1. Hasn't really been all that good to kick off the 2024 campaign, but you mentioned played here last year, not all that good either. T50. What was interesting when I dove into that, he lost almost 3 strokes off the tee, which is actually the second worst performance of his entire professional career so far. So odds are he's not going to do that bad once again. And also, this is kind of a place where you mentioned earlier, course history is a little bit sticky. Like first timers usually don't do all that good here. So I can forgive Tom Kim for his poor performance in his debut here last year. 2 of his 3 wins have come at TPC Summerlin, which is another desert style golf course. And I just think when we're talking about a course that demands you to be really good from tee to green, like Tom Kim is that guy, and he's still rated out, despite a slow start to this campaign, still rated out as one of my best fits in terms of the model that I ran this week. He was inside the top 10 both times because he's just accurate really off of the tee box, hits a lot of fairways. The approaches are really good, and he's really good with his long irons, which is impressive. Takes care of the par fives. The putter is hit or miss, but when it's right, he has the ability to gain strokes in an abundance. So for a guy who's won twice already on classical desert golf courses in his young career, and has proven that he can hang with the big dogs too, finished inside the top 10 in both of the final major championships last year. 44 to 1 was a big enough number for me to jump on Tom Kim. So I got him at 44 to 1. I also got Sahith Theegala at 44 to 1. Another guy who it feels like is on the cusp of a really big year after he finally got that elusive first victory at the
that was huge for him.
Fall. Huge for him. I also think he was right there at the Century to kick off the season. He's been a little bit better with his driver as of late and has putted the lights out in 2 career events and was, really close to picking up his first win at this tournament a couple of years ago. So 44 to 1 was also a really big, a big enough number for me to hop on to Sahith Theegala. And then I also got Hideki at 50 to 1. Listen, I know there's not a lot of reasons to be high on Hideki at this point in time, but this is his spot. This is his place. And if there was any spot for him to get right, it feels like it would be here. 2 wins, 2 other top 5 finishes. I think he has 3 additional top 16s. Like, I know it hasn't been great for him, but this is the spot for him to get right. And also, in that T13 that he had a couple of weeks ago at the Farmers Insurance Open, he gained over 7 strokes from tee to green. And that shows me that his driver has been good enough. His approach has been good enough here as of late. I don't love what Hideki's been up to really in the last 2 years since his most recent win at the Sony Open. But man, if there's ever a spot, it's here. And 50-1 was big enough for me to jump on. So I got those 3 guys in that range, and Benny on at 42-1. So 42, 44, 44, and 50 right there for the 4 guys to start off my card.
All right. Hey, this is not a bad area to take a dive in on 3 golfers. I like this a lot for you. I like this range. Yeah, Hideki, we think his neck is a little bit, obviously he's getting better. He's getting better, right? So I think he's kind of finding it a little bit as he moves on here. And I do think this is a really good spot, but I like the other picks that you have in that range. So hit the Gala, man. He does feel like he's ready to make a run this year. I could see another 2-3 wins as the year goes on because he's got that kind of talent in him.
Yeah.
Adam Hadwin 50-1. We got Scott 50-1. Bo Hostler 55-1. Corey Connors, your boy, 55-1. I think I saw 70 earlier. So I mean, definitely you're shopping around. I'm only looking between. This is Odds Checker. You know, like I said,
I don't know what's up with Odds Checker anymore, man. They're just not reliable. I'm sorry, Odds Checker. You're just not.
Yeah, and I feel bad saying that because maybe I should just not even be shouting out where we're getting the odds from because it's almost like it's bad publicity for them. And I swear we don't mean anything by that, but it's like
if they didn't want the bad publicity, they should post all of the sports books and not just FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it makes you wonder, like, you know, if you got to partner with them, that's fine. But like, I thought this was supposed to be so you could check the odds and compare the odds to the different books, but. Anyways, neither here nor there. Bo Hostler 55-1, Corey Connors 55, Siwoo Kim 55-1, Ricky Fowler is 60-1, Shane Lowry 65-1. So, yeah, I think this is a good little area here. I'm going back to the well, man. I'm on Bo again this week, 55-1. He's playing exceptional golf right now. Like I said, he was my one and done pick. T14 here last year. The approach, proximity, putting, it's all been really good. Even in a week that we don't really know what to make of the putting, like Bo just seems like he's about to put it over the edge here soon. Is kind of what I'm thinking. And like you look at approach the last 24 rounds, he's 5th in strokes gained approach the last 24 rounds. So. I'm liking Bo here. Ricky Fowler obviously has a really good track record here, so he's interesting to me. And I want to say he did really good here this tournament again last year. I don't have that pulled up right in front of me right now, but and Corey Connors, like that stands out to me, and so I'm interested to hear about him from you because I know that's one of your boys. This seems like a great spot for a Corey Connors bet. Just seems like a natural spot that he'd really excel in. So I don't know. What are you thinking here in this range?
Yeah, there are cases to be made for a lot of these guys. I thought really hard about Adam Hadwin, who has performed really well at TPC Summerlin, which is another course for comparison that I used for Tom Kim. So you could see why I'd be intrigued by Adam Hadwin, who also played really well at another desert style similar course at the American Express a few weeks ago as well, where you had tailed him. And I remember he missed like 2 4-footers on the back 9 that kind of like took him out of contention for charging Dominic Dunlap. You mentioned Bo Hostler, man, really good for you in the one and done last week. Someone who usually performs well in this like California, West Coast type of stretch earlier on in the season. You reference his approach, usually really good with the driver and until Sundays. Sometimes that's kind of what bites him. Can make birdies in bunches, but he's a real intriguing option. Corey Connors, tee to green. I've seen love for him because of how good he usually is from tee to green. Like that's his bread and butter and why he was in contention at the US Open last year as well. Ricky Fowler has incredible course history here, despite not really being all that good since he won at the Rocket Mortgage last year. So he's intriguing. Eric Cole seemingly is inside the top 20 week in and week out. And it feels like that win's going to come for him sooner rather than later. Like there are cases to be made for all of these guys, but ultimately the one that I ended up getting on, Joey, was Adam Scott at 50-1. And he's only played on the PGA Tour once so far here in 2024, but it was a T20 finish, and he gained 4 strokes in the ball striking category, suggesting that his irons are in really good form. But here's the interesting part about Adam Scott recently, Joey. That T20 that he had last week at Pebble Beach was his 3rd worst result over his last 9 worldwide outings. He's got 6 top 10s worldwide in his last 9 starts. Over the last 24 rounds, he's 2nd in strokes gained tee to green, 3rd in approach, 6th in strokes gained total on the par 5s, 11 in strokes gained off the tee, 14th in opportunities plus gained. I mean, it's hard to find anyone without a win who has better form leading into this week than Adam Scott. He's gained over 10 strokes to the field, Joey, in 5 of his last 7 starts. Now, I know asking Adam Scott to win, and Sundays are always a little scary, but man, this feels like such a good opportunity for him to pounce. And I don't know if this correlates or not, but 2 of his last 3 wins, and actually each of his last 3 wins have come in either February or March. 2 of the last 3 have come in the month of February. He hasn't won since the 2020 Genesis Invitational, but right here, right now, feels like a really good opportunity for Adam Scott, the way that he's been playing from tee to green. And when the putter is going right, he's been showing spike week abilities. So I feel like this is a really good spot for the Australian to get his first win in nearly 4 years. He has only played here once in his career, but it just feels like he has such good form leading into this event. So out of all the guys that I like in this range, Adam Scott was the one who got the click at 50-1 for me.
Oh, you're going to make me look a little bit closer at Adam Scott then, because
I'm not an Adam Scott better. I'm not an Adam Scott better usually, but like this week he really stood out to me.
No, but that was a name that I really didn't have on my radar this week. So I'm glad that you're bringing him up here, because I think for me, when we had last talked about Adam Scott, if I can remember right, we hadn't seen it on tour in a little while. So I wanted to see it back on tour. But you're right. Like internationally, I mean, just where he's been going, he's in great form right now. And we've seen it now back on tour. So I'm kind of tempted there now. I'm gonna have to look a little bit closer. I like the things that you're saying. I might just dabble with little Adam Scott this week too. But yeah, I mean, Sunday scaries obviously, but that's just about anyone. I'm betting someone I'm going to talk about right now with the Sunday scaries issue. Or if not Sunday scaries, he's got like the weekend scaries most of the time.
I know who we're getting to here.
You know exactly where I'm going?
Oh, it's got to be Mr. Thomas Detry, doesn't it?
Oh, let's go!
It's got to be Mr. Thomas Detry.
I didn't think you would know, because I thought maybe you'd. Well, I mean, yeah, that's pretty obvious, I guess, when we talk about that. 80-1, man. I'm not even going to get into the rest of the names here in this spot. He's looked good for 2 straight weeks, and he's a bomber. He's a bomber, and he's looked good for 2 straight. I feel like a bonehead just watching him at the top, near the top of the leaderboard the last couple weeks, and not having a single wager on my boy. Like it absolutely would have made me sick if I had 3 or 4 guys near the top, and not one of them was Detry. Like,
could you imagine if he won? How pissed he'd be.
Oh, I would have been. We would have gotten on the show. I might have like deleted StreamYard from OnTap Sports Network or something. Like, I would have done something outrageous.
Dude, and I mean, like, your Detry love goes back to not this past fall, the fall before. Fall 2022, we were betting Thomas Detry because his approach numbers were looking good. But boy, does he love being dog shit on Saturday afternoon and Sunday.
He loves it. And, he was in a pretty good position, though, after that last Saturday. After Friday, he was really in a good position and kind of teetered off a little bit on Saturday, of course. But he was still, he finished T2, right? This last week?
2 weeks ago, you mean?
No, this last weekend. Wasn't he T2?
He might have been T6, I want to say, with Scotty, because it was Matthew Pavon.
T6?
Ludwig Aberg was second. Letty F. Baby was second.
Oh, that's right.
Matthew Pavon was third. I want to say he finished T6, but still, like, no,
I was up there. Yeah, he was up there. This is a good setup for him, though. Like, no course history to go off of. Seems like a very good fit. I feel like sometimes you ride that hot hand, and maybe really for me, what I need to do, Jack, is just learn to bet first round leaders. Like,
I was thinking Detry first round leader this week too.
I think that's what I'm probably going to end up doing. I am going to sprinkle, just a small sprinkle, not even advising that you do this because, like, let's be honest, what his odds really should say is like 150-1. They should not be 80-1.
What's crazy
is that a hint?
Those opening odds that I talked about, how DraftKings had been listing odds for this event for quite a while. On Sunday afternoon, Thomas Dietrich was 150-1. He's now 80-1.
Wow. So I feel like I just nailed that.
You did.
With what he should be. Like, I did not even view that stuff, but that's good information to know. So basically what Jack is saying, what we're both saying, that's not a good number to get him at is 80-1. I'm just someone who's going to ignore it and just has to do it at this point because he's my boy. But I feel like, being bet down, he's one of those guys that's starting to get hammered a little bit like JT. So maybe that does tell you something right there. Looking at this range, though, I mean, Jack, we're kind of to the point where I don't want to go through it exactly all these names here. Just tell me, like, between 75-1 and we'll say 100-1. Got any interest here? There's some names I know we were talking about, texting back and forth with the Grill Master this last week. Do you have any interest there?
Yeah, I did it. I pulled trigger on Emiliano Grillo. He's never been really good at this event in particular. Hold on. I got to pull up his numbers, though, because they have been good enough where I had to bite. And usually when Emiliano Grillo, like, hangs into contention, he shows you that he's going to hang into contention. Like, last year before he won, he was T7 a couple of weeks prior, T5 the week after, T23 the week after that. Like, he usually shows some good form. And so far in 2024, he was T7 at the Sony, T20 at the Farmers, T14 at Pebble Beach. And last week he finished T14 at Pebble. He lost almost 5 strokes in the ball striking categories. Like, Emiliano Grillo from a year ago, if he lost 5 strokes in the ball striking categories, he would have finished dead fucking last because that's how bad his putter usually is. His putter has
usually
been
not
good.
Where he struggles ever. That's not where he struggles usually.
I expect him to bounce back in those categories because at the Farmers, he gained 3.5 strokes in the ball striking. He was a positive in that category at Sony, and he's been a positive in putting all 4 weeks to kick off the new year, and 2 of those have been gains of over 4 strokes. Like, if I can just get Emiliano Grillo playing how he can play from tee to green while gaining 4 strokes putting, I expect him to be inside the top 10 and in contention. And I got him at 83-1. So that was a good enough number for me to jump on. And of course, that usually favors good drivers of the golf ball, which he is. We know what he can do with his irons. And given his recent form, it was good enough for me to kind of ignore some shoddy past results here at this tournament. So, I got him in. There were some other names that I liked here, like Kurt Kitayama, a guy who plays a lot of desert golf, lives in Las Vegas. This feels like it could be a good spot for him. Dietrich, we mentioned. Alex Noren's been playing some good golf. Kevin Yu has popped up recently, and he's an ASU grad from this area. So there's a lot of names to like, even down here in the odds boards, but obviously you can't bet them all at this range. So Emiliano Grillo is the only one that I could squeeze in. And that was the second to last guy that I fit on my card.
I like it. I mean, stay true to your guns, what you're thinking, especially, looking at this course a week ahead or knowing that this tournament's coming and you were already thinking about doing it before that with Grillo. I like it. I think that's a good call. I have seen a lot of love for Alex Noren this week.
Yep.
It seems like, I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head or remember kind of what his odds were this last, leading up to this tournament a little bit ago before they posted like the week before?
I don't off the top of my head, but if I had to guess, probably somewhere around 100 to 120. I feel like he probably didn't get bet down as hard as like a Dietrich or some one of those lines did, but I would get why people like him. He's been playing good golf since the fall.
Yeah, not super bet down, but definitely somebody I feel like his odds probably moved. Looking at the rest of this list here, 100-1 and up. So Justin Steele, I'm just going to shout out real quick. Cubs on Tap podcast, the live stream show. I wasn't on earlier. I was at work, but the guys had Justin Steele on. They had him on. We had him on the show last year as well. So if you're a Cubs fan, he is the Cubs ace pitcher. He was on the show, and he likes golf. He said this is not gambling advice. Just want to throw that out there. It's not gambling advice. But the names that he lists kind of toss these out there, and feel free, go ahead and go back and watch that show. Very fun show. Some great questions asked. He gave some awesome answers. But he's a big golf fan, so he loves this event. Luke List was one of the names that he mentioned. He also said, Scotty, JT, Andrew Putnam, Luke List, and I'm forgetting one. Taylor Montgomery was the other name. But Luke List is 110-1. And me and you were talking a little bit pre-show about this. This does feel like a spot just with his driver, what he can do. I mean, he sucks at putting. We know that. His putter is atrocious. But maybe this is a spot where putter doesn't matter as much, or since we just don't know what to do with it. I'm kind of intrigued by that 110. That might be one that I need to ride with Justin Steele, which, like I said, it's not betting advice. He's not betting it, he said, or whatever. But Justin Steele might make me some money with my boy, Luke List, because he's already made me some money in the past. Mr. List has. What are you thinking, Jack, in this spot or about List?
Yeah, I don't hate Luke List whatsoever. I mean, just mentioning good tee to green play. I mean, guy's basically one of the best players in the world from tee to green. He just usually putts like shit, but has been putting better. I know he was putting good earlier on. I know we're still early into the season, but I'm pulling up what he's been doing lately with the putter. It's kind of back to being bad again. I kind of have some concerns. He lost 5.7 strokes at the Sony, 2.7 strokes at the Farmers, lost 2.5 strokes in the short game category at Pebble Beach. The ball striking is good, man. So if you feel like the ball striking can carry him and this could be a good putting spot for him, yeah, go for it. And I think those are good odds. I don't know. I just ultimately didn't get there.
That's not super encouraging, Jack.
I'm sorry to do it.
That's not what I wanted to hear, but that's all right.
It's the same story every week with Luke List. Is he going to putt well enough to hang in? It's the $1 million question.
And most of the time, the answer is no. But yeah, looking at the rest of here, I don't know. The glove hasn't been quite the same.
His putting stinks too. He can't putt anymore. He lost it.
He goes through those spurts too. When he's hot, he's hot. When he's not, you don't even look at him. I don't know, man. I did not bet too many long shots. This is the year of the long shots, but I feel like finally the trend has to come to an end at some point. Like, I feel like this is the week where like the super long shots don't, like maybe your pocket range of that 45-1 kind of range there, that might be okay. To me, that's not like a long shot. That's a pretty normal week. It's not a favorite, but it's a pretty normal week. I kind of like that range. But what are you thinking about that? Do you think we're getting another long shot? Like, anybody out here that's drawing your interest?
I hope not. I hope this is the week that it comes to an end, because after Griot at 83-1, I only have one bet made. There were a couple of names I thought were interesting. You mentioned Taylor Montgomery. I do think he was interesting. A good name. Austin Eckroat was someone who finished well at the U.S. Open in the past and played pretty well at the Players too. So I thought he was interesting. The one click that I got to was KH Lee, 225-1. And this is strictly literally he plays well at the Tom Weiskopf design courses, which is here, and the TPC Craig Ranch, the AT&T Byron Nelson, which KH Lee went back-to-back there. He finished runner-up to Brooks Koepka a few years ago at TPC Scottsdale, and he also finished T7 at the Shriners Children's Open. Like, he just likes these types of courses for whatever reason. And 224-1, like, for a guy who actually has won a couple of times on the PGA Tour at it's not a similar course to this, but designed by the same guy who has good history also on these types of courses. It was enough for me to throw $5 on KH Lee at 225-1. So I'm hoping this isn't the week, the underdog. I hope this is the week a favorite or someone with some notoriety actually comes through and wins the tournament, because I wasn't all that intrigued with the underdogs this week. KH Lee was the only one over 100 that I got to.
Outside of Scotty Scheffler, anyone but like the favorites maybe, but Scotty Scheffler.
Exactly.
But no, KH Lee, man, that's actually a pretty good call, because that's a name that I don't feel like that should actually be his price. He should probably be in that 120, like 225 is kind of outrageous for KH Lee.
Yeah, it was way too big for me.
And then there's actually a couple of other names, like Sam Ryder, 200-1.
Yep.
Kind of get it, but like that's a pretty outrageous number. Grayson Murray, I'm seeing a lot of people on this week. He's what, 250 to 1?
Yeah.
I don't know. We've
Can't do
also
it.
seen him at 300 to 1, and everybody has bet him as a long shot odds in the past, and how well has that worked? So
Exactly.
yeah, I don't like it. I'm gonna give you a crazy one. 350 to 1. Want to take a guess?
Who is it?
I bet him last year, and he withdrew last year.
I don't know who it is, but that sounds hilarious. Who is it?
Maverick McNeely.
Oh, he's been playing pretty good lately.
Yeah, he seems like he's back, man. I know. So he had the torn ligament, left shoulder. And if you remember, Jack, it was about this time last year because it was at the Pebble Beach. He withdrew there, and then he must have thought he was like decent enough to come into the waste management, or he just really wanted to go there for the waste management. So he withdrew again once he figured he couldn't play through the shoulder injury. But yeah, I really think this is a good place. Accuracy might not be needed as much. Need the distance, need the solid putting day. And he's pretty good on firm and fast greens. So this is a spot. I'm going to take a shot here, 350 to 1 for Mr. Mav McNeely. It's definitely an outrageous bet, but it's an outrageous number, so fuck it.
Yeah, I understand. Been pretty good to start off the new year since like trying to recover from that back injury. So I don't hate it.
With that said, man, I think you don't have any other prop bets or anything we can skip right to one and done?
Yeah, that's all I got for right now. If I have anything first round leader, I'll post it, but it might be Dietrich or maybe KH Lee. That's probably it.
Yeah, I'm going with Dietrich for sure. But I have to, man. I have to. I can't stand seeing him near the top at all and just no bet on him. So one and done. I think you're still in the lead. What are you thinking this week?
Yeah, I calculated I am still in the lead by
probably quite a bit.
Yeah, it's about like 70 points. So it's not.
I tried to make it sound like it was much closer than it was, though.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I'm gonna go with Sahith Theegala though here this week.
I like it.
What are you thinking?
Well, man, it's tough because I don't really want to use a big dog, but like this is a spot I really don't mind using a big dog. I'm gonna go with course history. I'm gonna go with JT.
Justin Thomas. You used Justin Thomas somewhere ridiculous last year.
Last year I did. Yeah, I did. I remember. I don't remember where, but it was horrible.
I gotta look it up. It was bad. I'm pretty sure you burned him in the fall. Yeah, you used JT at the CJ Cup in the fall, and he finished 53rd. So hopefully, I tried to get off to
a hot start, man. At least now we're on the other side of the year by the time I'm using him. Like I bet him in 2022. That's how fucking terrible it was.
Hey, probably better than betting him or using him as a one and done than 2023 because that didn't go very well for him.
Oh, that wouldn't have went well either. Yeah, where did you use him?
I don't know if I used JT last year. I'm sorry, brother. I gotta dip out of here, but I'll get to you on where if and where I use JT.
No, we'll figure all that stuff out. But yeah, no, that's good. So you're on what did you say again?
Sahith
Theegala, and I got JT. With that said, good luck. Let's get an outright this week, brother. You're due. I'll gladly take another one. It'd be nice to kick off the Super Bowl in a nice way. We are Golf on Tap. Hopefully everybody cashes those tickets. Follow Jack at Jack Bushman 2. You can follow me at Joey Knows Nothing. Golf on Tap at On Tap Golf. All social media platforms. With that said, crack them, lock them, fuck them, and we're out.